What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today, doing a breakdown video for the Stephen Fulton Jr. versus Daniel Ramon unified super middleweight title, or super bantamweight title fight at 122 pounds, taking place Saturday, I believe it's June 4th on Showtime, as it'll main event that card. And really, you know, heading in, if you're not a big fan of the little guys, this is pretty much to determine number one and number two potentially at 122 pounds. And what I mean by that is you have the number one fighter at 122 super bantamweight and Stephen Fulton Jr. battling the number four guy, the former unified champion Daniel Ramon. Now, Ramon is the number one contender in both the WBC and the WBO, so this should serve as a mandatory fight. It's a very good, solid matchup. I really like the matchup a lot because, you know, you got you got two top five guys going at it. If Daniel Ramon is, if Brandon Figueroa is done with 122, which most people feel he is, then Ramon is essentially your number three fighter there. And you know, it's just a big time matchup for Stephen Fulton, especially coming off of his win over Brandon Figueroa, which essentially determined the top guy at 122 for the moment. But it goes along for Stephen Fulton to cement his grasp on the number one position, because right now Stephen Fulton and Mirajan Akhmadaliev are lobbying for that spot because they're both undefeated unified champions. Another win here for Stephen Fulton against the top five guy is only going to do that more for Stephen Fulton, prove more for him to be the top guy, and that's what he wants. For Daniel Ramon, this could be his last hurrah in terms of, big title fight, because, this guy was, up until 3 years ago, well, actually 3 years ago, he had established himself firmly as the number one guy at 122, and then just 8-9 months later against Mirajan Akhmadaliev, he lost a close split decision in a fight that he was favored. So just a little over 2 years ago, he was still considered the number one guy at 122. So for him, this is a big time fight as well, to try to, prove that he's still the top dog, potentially set up a rematch with Akhmadaliev. If Ramon were to beat Stephen Fulton, it would put Akhmadaliev right back in the top position because he holds a win over Daniel Ramon. And again, maybe that sets up the rematch there. And for Stephen Fulton, it's to perhaps get a more convincing decision over Ramon than Akhmadaliev did, and that would firm Stephen Fulton's position as number one fighter at 122. So a lot on the line here, and that's why it's a main event fight. Stephen Fulton has earned that right, and he's heading into this one on Showtime against Ramon really motivated. So again, with my breakdown videos, as always, we take each fighter. I start with the favorite and the underdog, or the champion and the challenger. So in this case, we'd start with Fulton and then move on to Daniel Ramon. We talk about what they've done coming into the fight, and also we ask the same 4 questions of each fighter. Then I ask, is it better for boxing if one or the other wins? And then I give my predictions. So let's jump in, and we start with the undefeated and the reigning unified champion, Stephen Fulton Jr. Stephen Fulton's coming off of a fantastic 2021 where he not only threw himself into top 10 by winning the WBO title in impressive fashion over Angelo Leo in January of 2021, he totally threw himself into the top 10, but he basically in 2 fights made himself the number one fighter here, as he took on Brandon Figueroa, who's coming off of a big win over Luis Neri last year to capture the WBC belt, and he defeated Brandon Figueroa in a very good fight. I believe it was a majority decision victory back in November, and that pretty much gave him, in most people's eyes, a notch ahead of Mirajan Akhmadaliev, but barely. But Stephen Fulton has won his 2 best fights back-to-back, and now wants to add to that against Daniel Ramon. And he's highly motivated. He's supremely pumped up, and I think he's really, really ready to go in this fight right here, where he's basically the A side for the first time officially. You know, like that fight with Leo was a champion. He was a challenger. The fight with Brandon Figueroa was more of the A side, you know, heading into that fight. But Stephen Fulton has figured out a way to win those two key fights right there that have set him up for this showdown right here. And you know, he's highly motivated and pumped up, and I think he wants to establish his dominance and his position at 122. So first off, what kind of style does Stephen Fulton need to have to win this fight? And you know, the answer to that is basically he has the height advantage he has the height advantage by I think a couple inches, and then he has the reach advantage as well. So he needs to take advantage of those. We all know Stephen Fulton's not a big time puncher, but I think he does not, you know, the thing is Ramon's not a big puncher either, and Stephen Fulton has proved that he has a chin. So what I think he needs to do heading in is just stand in the pocket and see what Ramon has, but outbox him. Do what he does, the catch and shoot. Catch whatever Stephen Fulton's doing and shoot. And Daniel Ramon, and box. Use the angles. That's what he's been supremely successful with against Angelo Leo and Brandon Figueroa. But again, those two guys are more sluggers than boxers. And that's what he needs to remember about this, that Ramon can box a little too. Now, in terms of boxing, if Ramon decides to just box, he's going to get outboxed because Stephen Fulton's the better boxer. But Ramon likes to bang, and he likes to mix it up. So he needs to make sure he's winning rounds and not giving it away to Daniel Ramon. He needs to try to wear Daniel Ramon down, get him into the late rounds, and have a comfortable lead, and then put his foot on the gas pedal and go for broke. That's what I think Stephen Fulton needs to do to win this fight. Now, can Stephen Fulton win this fight by knockout? And you know what? Even though Stephen Fulton's not a big knockout guy, he's 20-0 with 8 knockouts, I think there's a chance for him to break down Daniel Ramon. Ramon's 33 now. I think there's a chance for him to break Ramon down, get him into the later rounds, and I think he might be able to stop him then. You know, Stephen Fulton, he's not a huge power puncher. He reminds me of Dimitri Bivol, where he's not a huge power puncher, but he's strong enough to keep you honest. And that's what, in my opinion, that's the same thing here with Fulton. I think he's the same thing. So I think the chance is there for a knockout. Can he win a decision? Absolutely. He's the better boxer. He's the better tactician, and I think he can break down and outbox Daniel Ramon. So yes, I think he can win a decision. What does this win mean for Stephen Fulton? Well, it's not going to be the biggest win of his career. The win over Figueroa is going to be tough to top, but it's going to, again, this one can firmly establish him as #1, because right now him and Murajan Akhmadaliev are going tit for tat in terms of, you know, can you top this? They're comparing themselves to each other every fight. You know, they want to compare themselves, see who the #1 guy is, and that could go back and forth. But here's the thing about fighting common opponents is Akhmadaliev back in 2020 narrowly got by Daniel Ramon. If Stephen Fulton can dominate and win a more convincing decision, he'll reaffirm his place at the top, you know, because he does have a better resume overall, just slightly, in my opinion. Those 2 wins, Angelo Leo and Brandon Figueroa, I think they trump Akhmadaliev's win over Ramon, and then Ryosuke Iwasa, because that was kind of controversial. But if Akhmadaliev in June goes out to dominate Ronnie Rios, you know, that might notch him up a little, but Fulton's going to have this fight first. So a strong performance out of Fulton, if he can be more convincing, that's going to give him the edge on Akhmadaliev for the top spot, and that's what he needs. So this is a big fight for Stephen Fulton to keep establishing himself as the top dog, and hopefully set up a showdown with Akhmadaliev for the undisputed title. Now, what does a loss mean for Stephen Fulton? Well, it's going to ruin everything that he's got going for. A loss to Ramon is going to devastate Stephen Fulton right now. It'll be the first of his career, and really it's going to keep him in that pack, you know, of fighters, but it's really going to derail him and put him on the back burner of what potentially could be an undisputed fight with Akhmed Aliyev later on. So a loss would be devastating for Stephen Fulton Jr. It really would. Now let's move on to the challenger, Daniel Ramon, the former unified champion. So what has Ramon been doing rolling into this fight? Well, his last 3 fights, the third 3 fights ago, was the loss to Akhmed Aliyev in January of 2020. You know, he came in number 1. Akhmed Aliyev was a mandatory. I really think that he was, you know, part of it, he was overlooking Akhmed Aliyev, but I do believe that Akhmed Aliyev is that good. And, you know, it was a tough split decision loss. He was in the fight, but nobody really argued that he lost the fight. So, you know, it was just one of those tough break type situations. But he's bounced back with 2 wins since, but the first one against Juan Carlos Payano in September of 2020, he got a gift there. I firmly thought that Payano dominated the action and won pretty much the first 7 or 8 rounds of that fight. And Ramon rallied late and had a good performance from rounds 8, 9 on. But I felt like he lost every round prior to that. So I really believe that he got lucky. He got a gift decision there, and you know, escaped. But then he followed it up with against a guy named, I think the guy's name was Ricardo Espinoza, and got a harder than expected but convincing 10-round decision in his last fight. And so rolling into this one, you know, what kind of Daniel Ramon are we going to have in front of us? Is it going to be the TJ Doheny, Marajan Akhmed Aliyev Daniel Ramon, who fights you tooth and nail and it's going to be a tight one? Or is it what we've seen, you know, what we saw against Payano, or the bounce back fight against, what's his name, the recent guy, Espinoza? We really don't know heading into this one, but I do believe that Ramon is highly motivated and wants to give his best effort, and I do believe that he knows the kind of opponent that he has in front of him. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how how this fight plays out. Now, what kind of style does Ramon need to have to win this fight? Ramon definitely needs to be coming, you know, actually, I take that back. Ramon might need to draw Stephen Fulton in to being the aggressor in this fight to counter punch him. Because I don't believe if Ramon keeps coming forward, I don't believe he's going to be able to beat Stephen Fulton that way. Stephen Fulton's used to fighting off his back foot and counter punching, and I think Stephen Fulton likes fighting in the pocket and mixing it up as well. So I think Ramon needs to switch it up. I think he needs to pop in, use the angles, throw the hooks, mix it up a little, and then pop out, but always jab on his way in. And I think if he does that, he can make the fight close and can be successful. Now, do I think Daniel Ramon can win by knockout? And the truth is no. Ramon's not a big puncher. He has won some fights by knockout, but he's not a big-time puncher. And Stephen Fulton, when it has been in there, his last 2 fights against real hard punchers in Angelo Leo and Brandon Figueroa, and he's taken everything they had. You know, guys that were bigger punchers than Ramon. So I don't believe Ramon can knock out Stephen Fulton Jr. Can Ramon win a decision? I think that's the only way he can win this fight. And I think he's really going to have to be on his A game in order to win a decision. He's going to have to fight the perfect fight in order to win a decision over Stephen Fulton, because Fulton is that good. But I do think it's possible. I think if he can make the fight close by boxing and punching, not just mixing it up and standing right in front of Fulton, then I think it's possible he can make the rounds close and he could win a close decision. Now, what does a win mean for Daniel Ramon? Well, a win means everything, especially now in his career. If he were to win this fight, it's probably going to go down as the biggest win of his career to become unified champion again. And then it sets up an undisputed title rematch with Marajan Akhmed Aliyev for the top spot at some point. So a win for Daniel Ramon here is huge. It's exactly what he needs. He's a former champ, and it really would rejuvenate his career and set him on a huge course to fight, you know, again, for possibly the undisputed title. So a win would mean everything for Ramon. What does a loss mean for Ramon here? A loss just, you know, I don't think people are expecting Ramon to win. Most aren't. But I think a loss, especially if it's a convincing one-sided defeat, really puts him on the back burner, maybe for good, in terms of people taking him as a serious threat at 122. It's one of those ones where if he loses by a convincing enough decision, then he might just move to 126. But if he loses a close one, it's not going to hurt him all that much. It'll keep him right there in the mix, and I think people will still consider him, take him very serious going forward. So depends on how he loses this fight is how that's going to set the tone for Daniel Ramon. Now, is it better for boxing if Stephen Fulton or if Daniel Ramon win this fight? And the truth is, it's better for boxing if Stephen Fulton wins this fight. He is the younger, undefeated, reigning champ. I think that's going to speak more for him, in boxing going forward. You got a talented guy, likes to mix it up, and undefeated, and it's going to really push the narrative for an undisputed title clash that people are going to want to see. So I think it's better for boxing if Stephen Fulton wins this fight, but having a veteran champion like Ramon come out and score a win is not going to be the worst thing. I just think it's better for boxing if Stephen Fulton wins this fight. And now, the final question, or comment, or whatever, who do I think is going to win the fight between Stephen Fulton Jr. and Daniel Ramon? And for me, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident in my pick here that Daniel Ramon is going to lose this fight. Stephen Fulton's going to win a convincing unanimous decision in this one. I think there's a chance he could stop Ramon in the 10th, 11th, 12th round in that area, and leave no doubt, but I really think Ramon is a good fighter. I just think he's going to be outclassed in this one, and I think the fact that Fulton is the better boxer and he likes to mix it up in the pocket, but also he's got the height and reach advantage is going to work for him, and I just think he's going to outbox Daniel Ramon and win a convincing decision. I'm talking 9 rounds of 3, 10 rounds of 2 type decision in my book. But hey, Daniel Ramon's a veteran. He's been here before. He's a former unified champ. He definitely could surprise us. He's definitely a live underdog. So that's what I got. This fight again takes place Saturday, June 4th on Showtime, and is for the unified Super Bantamweight Championship at 122 pounds, the WBC and the WBO belts, currently held by the undefeated Stephen Fulton Jr. He will defend those belts against the former unified champion, Daniel Ramon. So that's what I got. That's the Fulton Jr. versus Ramon breakdown video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Leave me a comment or subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate any and all support. And that's what I got. This is True Boxing. You've been here with the truth.